How concerned should we all be about this apparent supply chain problem when it comes to defense, and what's the best way to address it?
We should be very concerned about it because, it's always laudable to help others in their time of need, but it can't come at the expense of our own national security capacity. And that's really what's at stake here. When you look at the official documents issued by the Defense Department in public, we have donated over 5,000 combat vehicles, and that's everything from M1 tanks to 109 Paladins to artillery pieces, to trucks, MRAPs, just all different kinds of things that are involved with that. And those are all things that were in our own inventory in the case that we ever needed war. Now, it's not just a matter of what's in the active duty military, for example, because the whole point of our national defense strategy is that we have to be able to sustain combat, like some of these wars that are going on longer than expected. And if you don't have enough things in spare capacity, then you may use up what you have on the active duty and you may not have it for yourself. Without question, our capacity is now significantly less than it was 22 months ago.
But the U.S. has given military aid to other countries for decades. So why is there so much concern right now?
Because if you look at how that's actually happened over time, in the past, there's lots of these headlines that, we give $200 million to this country or 300 to that. But what you don't see is that most of that stuff is like over 3 to 5 to even 7 years over time. They'll make a contract, and like a lot of these F-35s, for example, we make a deal to sell them, or F-16s, but it could be years before they're even built. These needs right now are today. Ukraine needs artillery shells right now. They need, the F-16, the M1 tanks, et cetera. All these vehicles they need immediately. Now, of course, with Israel-Hamas war going on, now that especially for the interceptor rockets, for bunker buster bombs, artillery shells, regular ammunition for rifles and machine guns, those things are also now added to it. At the same time, there's also a renewed push to give money and weapons and ammunition to Taiwan, should they need them in a Chinese invasion. So all those things are just stressing to the breaking point, our chain, which normally deals in slow motion over many years. Now it's like, okay, these things are gone, and now we've got to replace our own stuff, and there's still demand in all these other places that's not going away. So it's a big strain.
So I want to get your thoughts on President Zelensky, who is visiting the White House tomorrow. This is just the latest appeal for new military aid for his war-battered country. As you mentioned, it is not the only foreign policy issue that President Biden has to wrestle with. There's also the issue of Taiwan and Russia. How do you see those negotiations moving forward as far as extending this military aid? What is the danger for these allies if they don't get it?
This is a big gamble, I would say. This is high stakes both for Zelensky and for Biden, because last weekend, toward the end of last week, there was supposed to have been a meeting via video teleconference between Zelensky and members of the House and the Senate. But that meeting itself, the one that happened before his, broke up into a lot of acrimony and complaints. And so Zelensky didn't make that meeting because he didn't want to talk to people who may not even want to give him money. Coming now in person puts the onus on both President Biden and Zelensky to get this, because if they aren't able to get this money broken loose from Washington, and look, there's members of both the House and the Senate that are far from being in agreement on this stuff. If he leaves town with nothing, that's going to diminish his stock at home, and it's going to diminish President Biden's, because it's going to look like he can't deliver on his promises. So I think that they're taking a big risk here, because I don't think the chances are very high.